Hello and welcome to the Pete Braley Show. It's always a pleasure to be with you. I'm excited about today's show. Our guest has been entertaining and astounding audiences for years. The only thing is she's not here yet. Our guest is the award-winning illusionist Lyn Dillies. Oh, wait a minute, let me get this. I don't usually do this, I'm sorry, but I am. Oh, it is from Lyn, okay. Hi, Pete. Excited for today's show. Whenever you're ready, just say abracadabra. Okay, abracadabra. Oh, hi! All right, let's get started. All right, so first question. How many people spelled your name wrong, and what happened to the other N? Because it's L-Y-N.
It is a little confusing, I admit, but the L-Y-N is my professional name. A little fancier than L-Y-N-N-E, which is my personal name. Still sounds the same, though, Pete, so that's why it's a little confusing.
There you go, all right. How did you get started? You told me you grew up in New Bedford and then moved to Westport, right? But when did you become interested?
Here is a funny story. When I was 8 years old, I went to the Hathaway School in New Bedford.
Okay.
This magician came to the school to put on a show. Well, I was so shy. I mean, I wouldn't say boo to anybody. I'd hide behind my parents when I would be introduced to somebody. This magician was on stage doing the show, and I was such a wreck that he might pick me to go up on stage that I slid so far down in my seat, I missed the entire show. That's how much magic had an impact on me at that time. Zero. And then fast forward to 4 years later, there was a great TV show called The Magician, starring the late Bill Bixby.
Right.
And he portrayed this magician who was using his magic to fight crime. And he really did magic on the show and was trained by a professional magician. So this was so intriguing to me. And of course, he was a jet setter, very handsome, multimillionaire guy, fighting crime with his private jet. And I had my dad take me to Cheap John's Joke Shop.
Yes, I remember that.
On Union Street.
Yes.
To buy me a few little tricks. And I was extremely diligent practicing these tricks. I took this so seriously. My grandfather, who was a concert violinist, taught me about the importance of practice. And if you want to be good at something, you have to practice. So he really instilled that in me. I brought these tricks finally to school. Did magic on the school bus, in the lunchroom, show and tell, and my shyness started to disappear. And I knew at 12 what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Did I read that you once passed out in a magic store?
That was Cheap John's Joke Shop. Because I was saving all this money to buy my first small illusion. And at that time, $75 was a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was there standing at the counter, and I was just so overcome by the emotion of it all, and I'm spending all this money that I just passed out cold right on the floor.
Was it difficult to get started for you professionally?
Is
it still a male-dominated industry?
It is, predominantly, yes,
Right.
It is, absolutely. I'm probably the only female illusionist full-time in the country at
What's
this
the
point.
difference? Is there a difference between a magician and an illusionist?
Well, yes, because it doesn't necessarily mean that being a magician, you're an illusionist.
Okay.
All illusionists are magicians. So an illusionist
right.
is a magician who does magic with bigger props, using people and animals, and it's a lot more of a spectacular type of production.
Speaking of animals, how'd you get involved with elephants?
I always loved elephants, Pete, and always wanted to figure out a way to work with one. And in 2000, that's when the New Bedford Buttonwood Park Zoo was going to have its grand opening. It was shut down for a number of years. They were doing a total revamp. And I thought, wouldn't it be incredible if I could produce one of the elephants as part of the grand opening? So I proposed the idea to former Mayor Kalis,
yes.
God rest his soul,
Yep.
and he was all over it. He's like, "You can do that?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, let's do it." And we just took the concept and ran with it.
I just watched the video on your website yesterday, and it reminded me, because I remember when it happened. And she made Emily and Ruth appear.
Yes. Yes. So the whole thing started with the production of Emily.
I'm not going to say how'd you do that because you're not going to tell me.
Well, I'll tell you, sleight of trunk. But so, it took months to conjure up the illusion with the engineering behind it and so forth, and
I was going
training
to ask
Emily.
you about training Emily, right? Because
Oh,
you did
yeah.
this went on for a couple of months, I read, didn't
Oh,
it?
many months.
Getting her used to the music and the actions and motions.
Yes, we used a lot of positive reinforcement, and we call it desensitization, because every aspect of the illusion required her to be so familiar with it that by the time we did it, it was literally a walk in the park.
Okay.
So we had a prototype of the illusion constructed in her den, and on hoists and all, so the trainers could press a button and this thing would lower and the curtains would be around her, and she would get used to her boundaries and not be spooked. That was the key. We didn't want her to be spooked.
Right.
But
Don't they always say don't work with children and animals
I
in
know,
Hollywood?
I don't listen to them. So then halfway through this whole adventure, I figured out a way. It hit me like so hard over the head, Pete, of how I could produce Ruth as well. Not together, in succession. And then I contacted these magic historians, and they said, Lyn, you'll be the first in magic history to ever produce 2 elephants in succession.
Wow.
So it was the biggest aha moment of my career when Emily appeared out of thin air in front of a live audience. It was just major goosebumps. I'll never forget that feeling. And then to have Emily appear right in front of people's eyes and walk away to the side, and I immediately repeated the illusion, had this curtain thing drop down, and boom, there was Ruth. People went out of their minds.
And it took months to put that together, right?
Months and months and months. Yes.
So I would imagine the feeling after that illusion is done is like, this was worth it. It worked.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the great thing was Emily and Ruth had such a great time. They loved every part of the process.
Wow.
It was good enrichment for them, and they looked forward to it. And they'd be so happy when we would rehearse. Their ears would be flapping and trunks going up and making all kinds of cute noises. It was awesome.
Now, this is not the only thing that you focus on or really love to do. You're also very involved with, what is it, Your Vote is Magic?
Yes.
Is the campaign. You just recently, in May, did a program at New Bedford High School.
Right.
How did this come about?
Okay, so I had lost my dad in '05, and my father played a big role in my career. And my dad loved politics, and he ran a lot of political campaigns, taught me about the importance of voting. I remember being at the bottom of Union Street with him holding, campaign signs and doing, the shaking of the hands
Right.
and the handing out the little postcards and so forth. So I was kind of, brought up around that environment. And the '08 presidential election was gearing up, but in 2007, I just kept thinking of my dad and how excited he would have been about this potentially historic election. And I just, again, had a brainstorm. These things just come to me of how I could perform this illusion that would deliver a visual message to the audience about the importance of voting. So the concept was to do kind of a modification of the original elephant illusion that I did.
Okay.
But ramp it up really on steroids, because I always had this vision. If I were to do this again, this is how I would tweak this and
Right.
revamp that. And so, but the idea was to produce a donkey and an elephant out of thin air, the 2 live political mascots. And as the animals appeared, my message was that you don't have to be a magician to create change. No matter who you choose, your vote is magic. And then boom, they would appear. And what that did was the illusion kind of paved the way for my mission to continue. I wrote a book about voting and incorporated all of the backstory of what went into the illusion and the mission and so forth. And then I took all of that and I put it together into a 1-hour assembly that I could perform for high schools, integrating my magic with a PowerPoint, teaching these young people about the importance of voting, underscoring all these points of how voting will impact their life. every vote matters, that they can make a difference with their voice and to use it wisely. And what it took for us to have this precious right to vote, what went into it. You know, I have veterans on camera talking to the audience about their sacrifice to protect our everyday freedom. And one of those freedoms is the right to vote, you know. And I do a deep dive into the women's suffrage movement. So it's really cool because the magic becomes the visual hook. The kids are riveted, but they're also learning at the same time.
Be careful, you might learn something.
And they're very inspired and empowered.
Yeah, that's great. Did you bring your truck? Because I know you had, how big is this truck that you have?
It's a 35-foot truck, and I love my truck.
I remember the first time you posted something on Facebook. You know, there was a video of you pulling up. Yeah, do you get curious onlookers who, you know, they see you pull up and all of a sudden they're
all
like,
the time.
oh, that's her?
All the time. When I'm driving, you know, to a gig and my male crew, you know, assistant, lighting designer, production assistant, they're all asleep in the truck, you know, and there I am driving and I can feel the roar of an 18-wheeler kind of pull up and then back off and pull up, and they do a big double take, you know, to see me behind the wheel.
That's something you were always interesed in? Big trucks?
Not really, no. I mean, it started
came out
with
of necessity?
a station wagon, transformed into a van. You know, as the show grew and evolved,
got more stuff.
The vehicles got bigger,
Right.
and before I knew it, I've got this big
Speaking
truck.
of your assistants, do you still have the same assistant who I've seen do shows with you for years?
Well, Mark LeBlanc had been with me for like almost 25 years.
Right.
And then he kind of wanted to take sort of a back seat to be backstage and do more of the lighting and the technical aspect of it. And now I have a fabulous assistant, TJ, who's been with me for quite a while. He's great.
Do you have a favorite trick that you do? Mine is it called metamorphosis?
Yes, that is my favorite.
And I've got to tell this story because it was years ago. Mayor Kalis had the Mayor's Gala at the Criterion Theater.
Yes.
You performed at that probably more than once. But I remember I was so excited this night because you were going to do Metamorphosis, and I was going to introduce you and then go backstage to wait till you were done. And I thought, oh, I'm going to be backstage. So I'm going to be able to see behind them. I'm going to figure this out. And I sat there and I went, I'm not going to ask you how you do it because I know
that one extremely quickly. I mean, it's probably the fastest in the country, if not the world, with that particular.
Could you describe that briefly to folks who maybe have not seen the?
Yes. So it,
and then if you want to tell us how you do it. So.
It's an illusion that was made famous by Harry Houdini. So it is a wooden crate, just an ordinary wooden crate, and we show it empty. TJ, my assistant, hops in the crate. He gets put inside of a sack. His wrists are shackled up with padlocks. I tie the top of the sack, put the top on the crate, padlock all four sides, and bring this curtain that just surrounds the perimeter of the illusion. And it's all just in one move, and it's like it happens in a blink, as you can attest to. Mm-hmm. So I bring this curtain up, and it's just literally, I just take it and just give it a toss, boom, I'm gone, and he's there. It's that fast. And I've disappeared, and now when he unlocks the trunk, then I'm inside the illusion, in the sack, with the shackles, in a completely different costume.
I'd say how, but I know you don't.
Well, that illusion, it's the finale. So when you've been on your feet setting up for our big show that takes 10 hours, Pete, 10 hours.
10 hours to set up?
To set up with a full crew. The show runs 90 minutes when we're, doing the full theater show. So.
And then you do that trick.
And then we do that one, which is the most taxing, and the timing and the everything involved has to be just spot on. And when you're like sometimes shaking because there's not much left in the tank at that point, the show's filled with adrenaline, so high energy, and here we go, this final illusion. But man, it's like unbelievable. It's like feeling like you've been shot out of a cannon. It's the only way I can describe it.
Do you still have to practice that? Because this goes back probably 20 years when I did this show with you. Is that something you practice?
I do. Yes, I do.
Right.
I will. I've been known to at 2 a.m. go into my garage and jump on top of that illusion. just muscle memory, getting the timing down and everything.
And I would assume you have to take care of yourself too, as far as exercising regularly and nutrition and everything. Because as you said, long days, 90-minute show.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's very strenuous. So you have to be in good shape physically. I have to make sure that I'm basically the same size all the time so I can fit in my illusions.
Oh,
so
right.
leading up to a performance, a big show where I know I'll be doing all the illusions, I will be literally weighing myself pretty much every day. And I'll know, well, okay, so I can't have that cookie. All right, never mind. I can't have, too many carbs leading up to it.
Do you have a favorite? Going back to my question, do you have a favorite that you still love doing?
Oh, well, absolutely metamorphosis and anything related to the elephants. That was absolutely incredible. And performing with symphony orchestras.
I noticed there was something else I made a note of. So, because you do a number of different shows, you do corporate events, you do schools, you do entertainment events,
right,
and you do the voting issue. And now tell me about how the symphonies. Does this go back to your grandfather?
I think he had something to do with it, really. Just acquiring some basics with classical music. Being surrounded by classical music. My grandfather, always rehearsing, and it was so beautiful. And I came up with an idea to incorporate classical music with my magic and having it played by a live symphony orchestra.
Wow.
So it took months to select the music. I wanted to make sure that every piece suited every illusion, and all the dynamics really gelled between the music and the magic. All the hits in the music would line up with the hits in the magic, with the choreography.
Right.
So that took a long time. Then I finally put it all together, and it was all conceptual. I hadn't even done this yet, Pete. And I rented an auditorium and had it filmed, and so that I had a symphony manager in New York City, and he would shop this concept around to symphony orchestras. Like, just envision this. See, you can see it on the back then videotapes. And so she will be performing her illusions in front of the live symphony. And then this took months and months and months to shop around. And my dad, every day, well, what's going on with this symphony program? I called it Magic at the Symphony. I said, well, nothing yet, Daddy. Oh, geez, he was so upset. You put so much money into this. And I said, it'll happen. It'll happen. It'll happen. I know it will. And wouldn't you know, one day I was in New York City with a friend, and I get this call from my symphony manager. He said, you won't believe where you'll be premiering this program. I thought, oh, it might be a little regional symphony.
Right.
Lincoln Center in New York City. That's where it was going to premiere. And we had 2 performances in one day. 3,200 people for each show. My dad rented a bus. God love my dad. He had friends, family, fans on the bus to come see us, and it was just incredible. And it went really, really well. And consequently, was able to perform with multiple symphonies all through the country.
Recently, we had Peter Pereira on the show, the photojournalist, and I mentioned all the places his work has appeared, Los Angeles Times and Britain, all these places. And I asked him, I said, have you ever been wooed away? Has anyone ever tried to get you to move to the bigger cities? And he said yes, and we talked about what kept him here. Reading your accomplishments and where you've performed, have you ever been offered or thought of moving to Vegas or New York? And so you say yes.
Well,
what keeps you here?
My family.
Okay.
First and foremost, the dedication to my family. That's my priority, because they're the real magic in my life, Pete. So that keeps me grounded. And it doesn't matter if you perform in Las Vegas or London, or it doesn't matter. It's just sharing my gift of magic with people and making a difference. That's what it's all about for me.
That's super. Lyn Dillies, our guest, and I happen to notice you have a deck of cards there. Is that my producer, Megan, she said, is she going to do magic? And I said, I don't know. I'm going to ask her how to do stuff. She'll say no, but are you planning something here? Or?
Well, okay, so this is interesting, because when I do my Your Vote is Magic program, again, the illusions correlate to different lessons about voting. So at one point in the program, I ask for a volunteer, and I'll say, is it okay if I borrow your imagination? So could I borrow your imagination, Pete?
As long as you give it back, I guess.
Okay.
Okay.
Deal. So let's imagine that this deck of playing cards is a voting booth.
Okay.
Now there are 52 candidates, okay,
Right.
running for office, and I've taken one of the candidates and I've turned it around. It's the only one turned around in the voting booth, okay? Now the cool thing about when you go into the voting booth is that you have a free choice of who you want to vote for, right? It's completely up to you. Now, what I want you to do is you've got two choices. Choose between red or black. Pick one.
Red.
Red, okay. You've got two more choices. Choose between hearts and diamonds.
Hearts.
Hearts, okay. And now you've got one more choice. Choose between ace through king.
I'll go with the ace.
The ace of hearts?
Yes.
Okay. Let's open up the voting booth.
We haven't talked about this. She
Not at
had
all.
no idea what I was going to say.
Not at all. Okay, now you can see that there's one candidate, right?
Yes.
Turned around amongst all of the other ones, okay? All right, now let's see. Now, again, you had a free choice.
Yep.
And you said that you were going to cast your vote for it was the
Red, ace
of hearts. Okay.
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
I would say your vote is magic. The ace of hearts.
Can I say, how did you? We hadn't discussed this at all. She had no idea if I was going to go red or black or king or...
Free choice. The wonderful thing about voting.
I know you said after today that you have to take your truck and deliver food.
Yes.
Tell me about that project.
Okay, back up. During the pandemic, it was a pretty grim time.
Yep.
I had lost my mom a few months before, and my
I'm
mom
so
was
sorry.
my entire world, and we were inseparable, and I didn't know how I was even going to go on.
And there were no shows.
There were no
during
shows.
the pandemic.
So it's like, wow, this is something. So
Well, you could do magic via Zoom, but I don't know how you'd sell tickets for that.
that would have been hard, being an illusionist. Some of my friends, though, they did a great job via Zoom. They were able to earn a living during that time. But so anyway, I was magically led, I think, by the universe to this cause. My cousin Scott Stubbs started this really neat mission through his church, the Smith Mills Congregational Church in
I know
Dartmouth.
that church, yes.
Yes. So he started Dartmouth United Outreach, which was a way to help out these seniors in need of food during the quarantine. They were panicking, and he said, you know what, we've got some funds, and surplus toilet paper that they needed. Let's get some stuff together. And Scott, unfortunately, has been battling cancer, and still is, and he's remarkable. And I said, gee, you can't be going into stores, during COVID. So I went and did the shopping and brought everything back to the church, and we, had to sterilize the food and everything, and then put together a bunch of volunteers, and we delivered this food to these seniors down on Anderson Way, and they were thrilled. The word spread rapidly, and before you know it, we were delivering food to all of these senior complexes, the Car Barn, Solamar, across all these local places, And then we aligned ourselves with the Greater Boston Food Bank. And we were able to have a drive up where cars could drive up, and our volunteers would load up their cars with food. And consequently, this became like a full-time thing. I was shopping almost every day for food up until we were connected to the Greater Boston Food Bank.
Okay.
I was using my truck to pick up the food every week, and hundreds of loaves of bread, and put together an army of volunteers. It's just unbelievable. We commandeered the whole church, every part, the classrooms, the church hallways, everything was loaded with food.
Wow.
And then as the preschool got back into the swing, my cousin said, we have to wrap this up. We can't continue it here.
Right.
And he said, you really need to get back to your show. And, we were starting to see a little glimmer of hope with that. And I said, no, these people need us way too much. They're depending on us. Hundreds and hundreds of people every week, Pete. And I said, we have to find a way. So fortunately, I was led to the South Coast YMCA Full Plate Project.
Okay.
Approached them, and they said, wow, this is fantastic, you can be a partner. And now, because we've partnered with them, the Dartmouth location that I'm involved with, we are the biggest in the South Coast.
Wow.
Today, for example, we will be handing out food to about 600 households. That's the equivalent of about 1,800 people.
Wow.
And last year, the South Coast YMCA Full Plate Project encompasses Wareham at every Y location all the way through Swansea, and they gave out 1.5 million pounds of food.
Incredible.
It's astronomical.
Right.
And these people, they've never been in the food line, many of them, and they're falling on hard times. It's tough out there. And just to see the difference that we're making in their lives is remarkable, and more than just the food we feed them hope as well. And
Nice.
I don't know if you recall that during the pandemic there were these signs on people's lawns with a green heart and it said hope in the middle. Mm-hmm. That was our main fundraiser.
Oh, wow.
Because we realized, we're giving hope to people
Right.
as well.
Right.
So, yes, so that's something I'm very involved with and very proud to be a part of.
What's the best way for people to learn about upcoming shows for you? Your website?
A combination of my website, which is magicoflyn.com, and also Facebook. Like me on Facebook, Lyn Dillies or illusionist Lyn Dillies, because I'm always posting my upcoming performances for people to learn about. It's easier, quicker than the website.
And you have it doesn't appear that you have any plans on slowing down anytime soon.
Not at all. Going to keep the magic
I was lucky
going.
to get this day, this appointment. Yeah.
Going to keep it all going.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much to you, Pete.
And keep
Thanks
up
for
the
having
magic.
me on. I sure will.
All right. Thanks once again to Lyn Dillies, the Magic of Lyn, for being our guest today. I did want to point out that we try to shine a spotlight on some of the people that make our life more enjoyable here in Greater New Bedford and Southeastern Massachusetts. I still have a list of people that I'm hoping I can contact and have on the show, but obviously I can't know about everybody. So if you have an idea of someone you think we should talk to, someone who just makes life special here in our area, let me know. There's a number of ways you can reach me. You can message me on Facebook. I'm on X, formerly known as Twitter. I think everybody else will say that, right? It's at Pete Braley. Or you can email thepetebraleyshow@gmail.com. That's thepetebraleyshow@gmail.com. Before we go, we leave you with a thought for the day, something we always try to do here on the show. And our thought for this show is, when you cannot control what's happening, challenge yourself to control the way you respond to what's happening, because that's where your power truly is. All right. No matter what, as we always say, go out and make it a great day.